If you are not legally protected in your business, you are leaving money on the table. Hey, I get it. The legal side of business can feel intimidating, but the good news is it doesn't have to be. If you want to build your business on a strong foundation, and if you want to know that your rights are protected when the unexpected happens with a client or a customer, then it's time to get legally protected. This means no more using free contracts that you downloaded off of the internet. This means partnering with a law firm that actually believes in your vision and can help you achieve it. This means legally protecting your brand so that no one can steal your good ideas. There are a lot of ways to grow and scale, but if you want to grow a strong business, it's time to get legally protected. If you're listening and resonating with this, then my signature service, the Legal Upgrade, just might be perfect for you. The Legal Upgrade is a straightforward, structured process to give your business the legal protection that it needs to thrive. Click the link in the show notes and schedule a call with me today. Hello and welcome to the Legal Upgrade Podcast. I'm your host, licensed attorney Christian Hammond. This podcast breaks down the legal side of business to reveal key legal strategies that can help you take your business to the next level. Please note that none of the following is legal, tax, investment, financial, or medical advice. Without further ado, let's get into the show. Today, we're going to talk about why you should talk to lawyers before you feel like your business is ready. Why you should begin a conversation with an attorney before you feel like your business is ready. And I think as business owners, we are constantly looking for the right balance between planning ahead versus jumping the gun. Because it's helpful to plan ahead. It's helpful to have some foresight into the future and what your business might need down the line. But past a certain point, it's no longer helpful. So we don't want to be distracted by things that are just not relevant or that do not require our attention or are not worthy of our attention in the moment. We don't want to be distracted by those things. At the same time, we're looking for that right balance between not being distracted by things that we're not ready for yet versus looking ahead and planning for the future and being prudent and putting things in place before we need them so that when we do need them, we are ready to go. So I'm not here to advocate for being distracted by things that are just not relevant for you or your company for where your company is. But I do want to talk about something that I do think is helpful, which is starting conversations with attorneys before you feel like your business is ready. So often people wait until there is something actively wrong or there is an active issue going on in their business before ever seeking out a lawyer, which means that they are talking to an attorney for the first time in their life and they're doing it under pressure because there's something going on in their business and they need help right now. So I want to talk about 3 reasons why it would actually be beneficial for you as the CEO and for your team to begin conversations with attorneys before you feel like you're ready, before you feel like the company actually needs them. The first reason why is because deciding to work with a lawyer is a hiring decision. And hiring decisions should not be made under pressure. I'm going to say that again. Deciding to work with a lawyer is a hiring decision, and hiring decisions should not be made under pressure. Now, you might not think about working with an attorney as a hiring decision, but you are paying someone money for a professional service. So while it is different from bringing on a full-time W-2 employee, and while it might feel different from other types of hiring decisions that you've made, this is still a hiring decision. And you don't want to make a hiring decision under pressure because then you might not make the best hiring decision. I would say it's like grocery shopping. Last week, I went grocery shopping after I had just left the gym. Now, this made sense from a logistics standpoint because I was already out. I was already in the car. It's wintertime here in DC. It's cold. So if I'm already out, if I'm already driving around, I want to take care of everything I need to take care of because when I go back to my warm home, I do not want to leave again. So it made logistical sense to go to the grocery store after going to the gym, but it wasn't necessarily the best choice for me and our health and our budget because I was hungry after leaving the gym. So now I'm grocery shopping while hungry. And I think anyone who has done this knows grocery shopping while hungry is not the best idea because when you go grocery shopping while you're hungry, you buy a lot of unnecessary things. You are shopping your cravings instead of shopping your list. Your judgment is clouded. And I would say it's the exact same thing if you are looking for a lawyer for the very first time under pressure because there is now something actively wrong in your business. You are likely potentially to not make the best hiring decision because you're making it under pressure. You're making it under urgency. You have to make it right now. You are grocery shopping while hungry, which is never a good idea. And so I think it's a great idea to start having conversations with attorneys before you even feel like your company is ready. Because then at your leisure, not under pressure, not under the weight or the gun of there's something wrong right now, we have a cease and desist right now, there's a lawsuit in our inbox right now, without any of that pressure, without any of that stress or anxiety, you can start having these conversations. And you can start having conversations with different types of attorneys. You can start having conversations with tax attorneys, employment attorneys, intellectual property attorneys. Maybe you're interested in a merger or an acquisition down the line. You can start having these conversations. And when you do it not under pressure, it gives you a time and it gives you space to make some evaluations. And the reason, I'll say that when I'm talking about these conversations, many, not all, but many law firms offer complimentary, I'll call them get to know you sessions. And different law firms might call them different things. And these are not free legal advice calls, but they are a complimentary, often phone call or maybe Zoom call, where you can get to know what it would be like to work with that firm. How many attorneys work there? What is it like to work with them? Would you be working with junior attorneys or more senior attorneys? How much does it cost? These conversations are often offered complimentary as a way for you to understand what it would be like to work with that law firm, to understand their process, understand how they are set up, and just understand what that relationship could look like. And if you are talking to a firm that offers these types of conversations, I have some suggestions for some observations that would be good to make during those conversations. So something you could ask yourself is, okay, are we communicating well? If this is the attorney that I would be working with in the future, how are we communicating? Are we connecting? Is this conversation making sense? Am I understanding them and are they understanding me? Another question to ask yourself would be, does it feel like they get my business? Does it feel like they get it? They get what I do. They get the contribution that we are making. They understand our products. They understand our services. Does it feel like they get the business? And a related question would be, do they have expertise in your industry? Now, having expertise in your industry, that might be more or less important depending on what your industry is, but it's still a question that would be good to ask. Have they represented companies like yours before? Are they familiar with the type of products or the type of services that you are offering? What is their experience like working in this industry? And if your industry is niche, highly regulated, or maybe high risk, I would say that that experience becomes even more important. And so the first reason that it would be good, it would be beneficial for your company to begin conversations with attorneys before you feel like you're ready is because this is a hiring decision. And like any other hiring decision, it's beneficial if you've interviewed more than one person, if you've talked to more than one candidate, because that's going to give you a feel for what's out there. What are the options? How are these law firms different? And which law firm do I or do my team, do we feel like we are connecting with? Which firm do we feel would be a good fit for us when the time comes? The second reason that your company would benefit from talking to attorneys before feeling like you're ready is so that you can plan ahead. I cannot tell you how many times a prospect, a potential client comes to me and they want to do something. And in their mind, they were thinking that the timeline was 2 weeks or they were thinking the timeline was 2 months. And actually, I have to tell them, actually, this thing you want to do, it's going to take a year or it's going to take a year and a half. So if you are thinking about, okay, I know that in the future, I want to do a rebrand. I know that I want a patent. I know that I want to register as a tax-exempt organization with the IRS. I know that I want to register with the SEC. I want to get a product approved by the FDA. On and on and on. There are many, many more examples, but my point that I'm trying to make is that there is something that you want to do as the CEO, as the business owner. There is something that you are planning on. And mentally, maybe you're thinking, okay, I want to do this next year. I want to do this 12 months from now. And you then wait the whole 12 months until you want to do it. And then you go looking for an attorney. And then you get the bad news. Oh, this is actually going to take a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. The legal side of this thing I want to do, the legal process, it's not going to take days. It's not going to take weeks. It's going to take 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. A lot of these legal things that you might be interested in doing are very, very long-term processes. And so by beginning these conversations early, by beginning the conversation before you feel like you're ready, you can get educated about how long this thing is going to take. You can get educated about what might need to be in place in order to meet the deadline that you want to meet. And you might come out of that conversation realizing, oh, if I want to do this thing 18 months from now, I need to start the behind the scenes legal process on this 6 months from now. And that might change your budgeting decisions for the year. That might change how you are prioritizing tasks for the year. And so having these conversations early can keep you on track and just really allow you to keep the schedule that you want to keep so that you don't end up in a position where you were thinking, okay, I want to do this 12 months from now. So 12 months from now is when I'm going to talk to the lawyer about it. And then you end up disappointed because actually it's going to take a whole another year to process. By having these conversations early, you can avoid that disappointment. You can avoid that unexpected hiccup. You can avoid that unpleasant surprise of realizing that your timeline is longer than you want it to be. And I would just say, having these conversations is great because you can get accurate information. Don't just rely on your assumptions. Don't just rely on conversations with your friends. Don't just rely on what you asked ChatGPT because those answers are not always correct. And so by having these conversations, you can get accurate information about how long a given thing is supposed to take. And for example, trademarks and rebranding is the perfect example. I'll have people come to me and say, hey, we are rebranding next month. And so we want a new trademark. And then I have to tell them, okay, that's great. And we can work with that and we can find a way to make that work. But just so you know, registering a trademark is a year to 18-month process. So you're not going to have certainty around your ownership of that registration for another 12 to 18 months. These are conversations that happen, and they happen more often than I would like them to. And so having these conversations early are just key for you being happy and you being able to stick to the timeline you want to stick with. And lastly, the last reason that it would be beneficial for your company, yourself, and your team to begin conversations with attorneys before you feel like you're ready is because it will help to expand your mindset and it will reduce the unknown feelings that you have around working with attorneys. Many times, business owners come to me even after years in business, and they've had very little interaction with the law. They've had very little interaction with any part of the law, whether a judge or an attorney or a lawmaker. Every part of kind of the legal world feels like this unknown black box. It feels like something they're not comfortable with, and maybe it feels intimidating. And on top of that, you probably already have assumptions around how much working with a law firm or an attorney might cost. And all of that adds up to anxiety around the unknown. But when you start to have these conversations, if you go out there and maybe you ask for a few recommendations, you ask your friends who they've worked with or who they've liked, and then you set up a few of these phone calls and you start to have these conversations, it's really going to help your mindset. It's going to demystify things for you. It's going to make it feel more familiar. It's going to make it feel more doable. And it's going to eliminate maybe some of the assumptions you've been making and just assuming, oh, well, I could never do that, or, oh, we could never afford to do that. It's going to eliminate some of that, and it's going to give you some surprises. It's going to surprise you. In my own business, when I first started out as a business owner, one of the wrong assumptions that I made was, oh, I'm early in my business and I could never afford to work with a bookkeeper. That was a completely incorrect assumption. And when I finally started having conversations with bookkeepers, when I finally started going through my own process of talking to people, and essentially what I was doing was interviewing different bookkeeping firms, I realized I had made a wrong assumption. And I could have actually worked with a bookkeeper much earlier than I thought I could have. And that would have saved me so much pain and suffering and anxiety and grind trying to do these things myself or struggling with QuickBooks myself. I wish I had had those conversations so much earlier because it would have replaced my wrong assumptions with actual facts and empowering information. And so if you are someone who has had zero interaction with the legal side of business, lawyers, judges, different types of legal concepts, if you've had zero exposure to that, and if it feels like this intimidating, unknown, or if you are a CEO who has just always assumed, oh, we could never do that, or my company can never afford that, I encourage you, pick up the phone and have a few conversations. Go to the websites of various law firms and just schedule one of these complimentary calls where you can get to know what would it be like to work together. Because I can pretty much guarantee you're going to be surprised. You're going to learn things you did not know. And you're going to be, and I think that you're going to be surprised at the many different ways that the many different ways that you could work with a law firm. Because different law firms do different things. For example, when it comes to pricing, some lawyers work by the hour, some lawyers work by a flat fee, some lawyers do a hybrid situation. If you're a startup, there's some law firms that will actually accept equity in lieu of payment. There's a lot of different things that are possible. And by having these conversations, you are opening your company up to possibilities. And just starting those conversations, I think, is so important to getting out of your own head and realizing what is possible for your company. And I think it's kind of like making friends. If you sit at home by yourself, you can tell yourself all kinds of stories around, oh, it's so hard to make friends, and I could never make friends as an adult. And, I just don't know if I'm going to vibe with anyone if I go to this event, so I should just cancel. You can tell yourself so many stories. But if you actually get out there, if you actually go to the event, if you actually attend the function, then I think, I have found, I know for myself, I'm often surprised and even pleasantly surprised. So that is what I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being here today. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. The Legal Upgrade Podcast is a Bevel Law production. For more information about the Legal Upgrade, you can follow on Instagram at Bevel Law or find even more information on the website bevellaw.com. If you enjoyed the episode, please remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. See you next time on the Legal Upgrade Podcast.